Hi everybody, welcome to my discussion talk about 3D scanning in video games, movies, and of course forensic science. So we're going to start off with the history of 3D scanners, how they came to be, what they're used for. So as we can see, in the 1960s, we're getting our first 3D scanning technology, basically just a normal camera with a little more emphasis on depth and these projectors. So due to limitations, it's slow. We're going to see that it has a problem with color, and it just really can't scan objects accurately, which for 3D scanning, you're going to want a more immersive, higher fidelity image to play with so that you definitely can have sort of the effects you want and things of that nature. So 1985, we're replacing our normal cameras with laser scanners. We're getting a lot more accuracy with the laser scanners. That's still something used today. There are pros and cons. The equipment's a little more expensive, but you're getting a lot more yield from it. We can see that there's actually a bottleneck with the software. We can have really good hardware, but if the software can't keep up, we're going to have sort of a bottleneck. And one of the problems with the software is that it can't put the images you're getting together. Obviously, you can't get a full 3D scan every time. There can be obstructions like trees, furniture, things like that. So multiple scans can be required. It's sometimes difficult to get these images to sort of mesh together, and that's one of the software improvements that's been made over the past couple of years. Really leaps and bounds in that. We see Digibotics introduces a 4-axis machine. So we're starting to see our point clouds come about. Our scanners are getting a little less expensive. We'll see that's going to be a big thing later. But we're still having issues with color. So this is sort of the quest to find a 3D scanner that was accurate, fast, truly showcased 3 dimensions, capable of capturing color surfaces, and reasonably priced. I think this last one we're still working on, definitely for me, but they have gone down in the past couple decades, so that's nice. 1996, we see our manually operated arm and a striped 3D scanner, resulting in fast, flexible, high fidelity images. They have the reality capture system. We're getting it down to from hours to minutes, so that's definitely making strides in that. So let's talk about a 3D scanning company. This is Scannable. Found them pretty easily, and they sort of showcase some of the things they've done in the film industry, and a little bit more even. So we see that they work with LiDAR and 3D imaging. We come down here and we see full color face and body scans. As you see, full color, definitely something that you want in any sort of media that you're producing, whether it be movies or video games. Definitely a must in today's standards, at least. We have CGI, VFX, digital location replication. We're going to see definitely there are different ways to sort of combine aspects of actual locations into film, into video games, and then forensic science, of course, is going to be taking a scene and putting that into something that a jury can more easily digest. We see our point clouds coming up again. That's sort of our coordinate system for any 3D scanning are these point clouds. Generally, the more you have, the higher quality your image. There's definitely a point of diminishing returns where you can have so many point clouds, but the image doesn't look any better to standard purposes. Clearly, those higher resolution images will have some use, but at some point you're just slowing down your day. So as we will come down here, we can see 3D head and body scanning. We saw this with Benjamin Button, how they were sort of creating that aging effect. with this type of scanning, location and environment 3D scanning, more towards the forensic side. But we'll also see DICE with Star Wars Battlefront 2 actually utilize this type of method. 3D object scanning. This is anything that's not a person, is not a place, typically falls into this category. As we see, weapons, shoes, hats, clay sculptures, etc. 3D automotive scanning. This is actually more of an engineering sort of use for this. This was actually really interesting to me. So yeah, check that out if you want more information on that. And then we see statues and fine art 3D scanning. This is more towards creative purposes, getting high fidelity images. This would be one of those situations where higher point cloud count might actually be useful. So yeah, we can see that there are companies that are doing this, and these methods are being employed today. So this is a SIGGRAPH paper about using these point clouds systems and sort of the cleaning up and designing software that sort of cleans up our images for us. They actually took we'll take a look at some of their work here. They actually took a 3D scanner and attached it to a drone and sort of moved around different locations. As you can see, you can sort of get visuals that you wouldn't be able to get with a standard, or that would be really expensive to get with like an actual camera doing these routes, these overviews. So the 3D scanning is definitely a way to create some nice effects in film. Definitely take your viewers on a path that would be logistically sort of a mess to get otherwise. So it's definitely a great sort of alternative for that. We'll just fast forward a little bit so we can see. Right here we can see that over on this side, image quality is a little bit poor. This is sort of our baseline, and then they use the software to sort of clean up the image, get something that sort of immerses the viewer a little bit more, because with this 3D scanning you do get a lot of noise and a lot of extra stuff that does need to be cleaned out later. So, moving on, let's talk about some of the uses in video games. So there's been a lot of movement in how much this has been used in the past couple of years, actually. Now that the images are a little bit easier to use, we're getting a lot more of that digital 3D representation. So we can see for face and body scanning, it's sort of a risk reward, because as you can see here, it's definitely noticeable if some of the details aren't right. And that's something you don't want in sort of films and definitely video games as well. So sort of you have to be able to put in the time and definitely have the software requirements to make something that looks good and that the normal everyday player will be able to experience as well. So as we can see, a lot of what's going to be utilizing 3D scan is actually just textures. We're not really going to be making full 3D models out of 3D scans, because one of the issues that I was reading about is mapping collision to some of these 3D scans, especially as you saw in the sort of the drone video. There's a lot of noise, stuff that needs to be cleaned up, but mapping collision, that can kind of be in opposition of each other. So you want to make sure that you're having your 3D scanning useful. And one of the things that we see is the sports games, because a lot of that doesn't require a lot of contact with assets. So you're just sort of going, and you can put in really high quality images, and then go back and sort of clean that up later. So that's definitely where we're seeing it more today. That's more the people and the objects thing. But what I am more interested in is actually the environment, the world building. So let's talk about Star Wars Battlefront 2, and sort of how they took that game and really tried to immerse the player in the world of Star Wars. So the team actually went to the original sets and took actual pictures. As you can see here, they where is it? Right here. Very simple to do. Just a regular DSLR camera, and the software has come to this point where they can take these 2D images, sort of combine them, mesh them together, and here's your early point cloud sort of coordinate system. As you can see, Forest Moon Vendor, but it was actually they went to the place and took the pictures. If we look at this chart, we can see how we have Battlefield 4 here, another game that DICE worked on, and as you can see, taking approximately 2 weeks for assets to be made. That's a long time. I'd say even the 7 days for Star Wars Battlefront is still quite a hefty amount of time. So we've definitely made strides to improve, but there's definitely still room to grow. So we can see how development of these games can definitely stagnate very easily. Photogrammetry, that's sort of the name for taking these 2D images, interlaying some 3D scanning in there, and getting our point clouds. So we'll just take a quick look at this. As you can see, they're sort of deconstructing the texture from a real image. We can go down here and see here are some of the images that they actually took with their cameras, and we're creating sort of our textures, our assets with those. So it's really interesting to see 3D technology used in this way. You really wouldn't think about it at first glance. So finally, let's talk about the Faro Focus laser scanners. This is more of our forensic science aspect coming into play. I've actually personally got to use one of these. They're really cool. This metal part spins. You have a high fidelity laser, scans the entire environment. It rotates 360 degrees. You can use it pretty much anywhere, indoor, outdoor, daytime, nighttime. Very versatile machine. And yeah, so they claim ranges of up to 70 meters. I think that's a little generous personally, especially with obstructions, things like that. You're going to be getting sort of a lesser return on that. But for any open field, I guess that'll work. Yeah, so let's look at the features. This is actually going to be, we can see almost a million point clouds per second, which is quite a bit. We'll see in a little bit what the legal threshold is for getting these into the courtroom, and what we sort of have to do to maintain sort of fair and accurate representation of a crime scene. So let's just go and take a look at that. So this actually started in the UK. I actually got to spend time with their police services over this past summer. It was really awesome, and the integration of sort of this technology into the courtroom is really just incredible. They sort of take you on a bird's eye view of the scene. You can use the software to have you sort of walk around inside for houses, things like that. And it's really just, it's quite immersive, and you don't need to take a jury out to a crime scene to make a point. You can just sort of take them on a visual tour, and it's really quite cool. So we're seeing the legal threshold 10,000 to 100,000 data points per second. Faro Focus easily beating that. Granted, if you want those higher point cloud counts, you're going to be sitting there for quite some time. That's sort of the balance, is how many point clouds do you want, what's your resolution that you're looking for, how much time do we need to spend on site. But it's definitely faster than, sort of taking the measurements yourself. So that's definitely a bonus. So very cool. Just final thoughts on the matter. It's really interesting to see 3D scanning have such a versatile amount of uses. Definitely with film and video games, you're going to see that the cleanup process is more focused on, because some of that noise that we were seeing in the drone video especially, really, really just, you want to get rid of that for video games, for movies, TV shows, stuff like that, because that is going to break the immersion. Bring that over to the forensic science side, and no matter what you do, you want to have the original scan intact, because any alterations you do in the program can be seen as altering evidence. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining the original, while also it's more of a supplemental material. This is not replacing photography by any means, at least not yet. And you want to sort of take the jury on a visual tour, which means sort of focusing on what came out right. Cleanup is a little less, you don't need to be super intense about it, but also you want to provide a jury with the best possible sort of image of what happened, where you need to take them to get your point across. So definitely an interesting difference between how cleanup works, how the actual scanning works. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll definitely link all these websites in the description below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and catch you next time.